Asmadgurubhyo Namaha. Srimati Ramanujaya Namaha. Today we will talk about idol worship in our culture, the proofs of its existence from the period of time of Ramayana, and then how various philosophers of different, who followed different philosophies and paths prescribed idol worship, which unfortunately some of the people with low intellect, the neo-Vedantins of this or the previous century, thinking that they know, without even going through the itihasas or our Vaidika Sampradaya, started commenting and denigrating those traditions. The reason I have picked up this is many a times I have heard people talking about why somebody needs to go on a pilgrimage, visit a famous temple like Tirupati or something. This is asked due to different reasons. Some people in the path of yoga consider that that Paramatma is inside. You don't have to search for him outside. Now Ramanuja tells 5 states of that Paramatma, right? Para, the highest; Vyuha, second state, which is in the Ksheerasagara, or wherever he is contemplating on creating and maintaining and destroying these worlds. Then the third is Vibhava, which is when he comes as incarnations here as Ramakrishna. Antaryami, who is within you, that everyone agrees. And Archavatara. Ramanuja considers Archavatara as the highest. Some philosophers or some philosophy, they consider Archavatara as a beginning step to realize the Paramatma, as surrendering ego or, identifying not with yourself but the idol before you. That is correct to some extent, but Ramanuja says that Archa is basically the highest, form of worship, that God who is everywhere. You can see him and he is before you, accepting your services as your kid before you. This we talked about in a previous video, so we don't have to go much into that. Now again, there are different philosophies. Some philosophies say that that there is only existence, nothing else. Some say it's shunya. For all of them, they consider this as a saguna state of worship, which is okay, a beginning step. And for Ramanuja, or even Madhvacharya of the Dvaita philosophy, Ramanuja especially, this is the end in itself, because the Visishtadvaita philosophy is basically, it considers God as always being together, Paramatma always being together with the jivas and the Prakriti. And God is described as Ananta Kalyana, having infinite divine qualities, omniscience, omnipotence, endless happiness, Satyam Jnanam Anantam, as the Veda, the Shruti itself says. Yah Sarvajna Sarvavit, as the Veda Shruti says. Similarly, when the word Nirguna is described, there are some Veda Vakyas that are talking about Saguna. They are called Saguna Shrutis, Nirguna Shrutis, and then there are some Shrutis that are trying to bridge between them. When it says Nirguna, Ramanuja beautifully explains all the Upanishadic statements without having prejudice to any of them. Not like just picking some of them and saying that I will only pick these 4 or 5 Vakyas, these are my Vakyas, and I don't consider the other statements. Ramanuja tried to unify the entire Vedic statements. And when he says Nirguna, he gives the true understanding of Nirguna. Nirguna is without these kinds of gunas that you are having here, the Mishra Sattva, or the Sattva, Rajas, Tamo gunas, right? The Sattva here is mixed with Rajas and Tamo gunas. He's saying it is without these gunas. Ramanuja explains the Paramapadam as one wherein the muktas, who are liberated, and the nityas are always serving the God in a state of Shuddha Sattva. Sattva that is devoid of rajas and tamas. Tamasah parastat. In the Paramapada or Vaikuntha, he describes it beautifully. Even there, the liberated beings are serving or visualizing that God through the divine bodies given to them and senses. So that is why in the Vishishtadvaita Sampradaya, there is no impediment in thinking that, okay, if I am worshipping an idol, that is not an end, it is an end to getting into some non-existent state or something. And with due respect to other philosophers, even Shankaracharya promoted idol worship very well. It is told that when he visited Badri, God appeared to him. The idol was thrown by certain Buddhist followers into the Alaknanda river and it was damaged. So God appeared in dream, Narayana appeared in dream to Shankara and said, install me, I am here. So Shankara reinstalled and reinstated the worship in Badrinath, established Joshimat. The whole worship in Badri is as per the followers of Bhagavad Shankarapada. And even he established mutts in Puri, Dwaraka and other places, right? So he also understood the importance of Archa worship. Now coming to itihasas, right? So very unfortunate that some people ask, why you need to go to Tirupati, etc. They haven't seen or experienced how many saints have sung glories of that God, Venkateshwara there. How saints meditated upon him sitting where they were. Yes, it's true, he is within you, and the yogis consider that it is here, you should be happy. That is very much true. But God is shining in many Divya Deshas, in great temples, as prescribed by our Agamas and described in our Itihasas, which I will come to. It is not today that people have established temples. Ancestors are not fools. That today some great person comes and says that why you need to go to some temple. When some yogi says that you have to find it internally, he is not on a hill or he is not on somewhere, immediately people jump to Tirumala hill, right? It is not that. You need to take it in a context. Don't search for him outside, search for him inside. Feel it. He is with you always, within you always. Have that completeness within you. Similarly, find that completeness across, everywhere. Don't just limit it to that form and then you come out and scold somebody outside. Or don't see divinity elsewhere. Trying to forgive people, trying to see divinity everywhere, being happy, being content. These all happen when you see the divinity everywhere. Whichever philosophy you follow. That has to be there. That is why that has been told that you find within yourself. But even the great saints, Annamacharya, if you take, he has composed so many thousands of songs on Lord Venkateshwara. Was he always sitting before Venkateshwara? No. When he had to take the darshan, he took the darshan. Later on, he meditated upon that God and then he sang the songs. Similarly, there are great saints called Alvars who sang many songs about the divine form of Lord in many Divyakshetrams, temples. There are 108 such beautiful divine Kshetrams, temples on which they have sung the songs. So were they always before that idol? No. They went, they saw that idol and then they came back and meditated upon that and were lost they were in Samadhi, seeing that form. For some it is a limited thing that seeing a form is limited, but not according to those exalted saints. Not according to the philosophy of Ramanuja. That we need to understand. Even when I do my worship, I try to visualize some of the key Divya Deshams where God is there. I try to visualize how the Lord is in my dad's place, how he is in Tirupati, how he is in Kanchi, how he is in Melkote, how he is in Srirangam. I try to visualize that. Sometimes he appears, sometimes it is very difficult to visualize him like that. It is told that Vishnu Sahasranamas birth is through that process only. Every great rishi meditated upon different qualities of the Supreme God. They visualized him in a certain form. Jagat Sarvam Shariram Te, as Ramayana says, this whole world is your body. It is not a mithya. So they visualized his form in nature. Some visualized it. Some visualized his form. Every form is his, right? He can take any form that you want. They visualized his beautiful attributes. Somebody called him a Sakshi, as my Acharya was saying. Somebody called him Achyuta. Somebody called him Muktanam Paramagatihi, the one who is the end to those who are practicing to become muktas, and the end to even those who have attained that state of liberation. So Vishnu Sahasranama was through the experience of a lifetime penance of each rishi, or maybe for several lives, that was collected by Vedavyasa. None other than Vedavyasa, he collected Vishnu Sahasranama. If people have questions on this debate about Saguna and Nirguna, right, they need to know that this is from Vedavyasa. And as I said again, Nirguna is not lacking qualities. Nirguna is Nikhila Heya Pratyanika. He is not having these kinds of qualities that you are seeing here in this world. They are way above. When you say Satyam Jnanam Anantam, he is the one with knowledge. He is infinite, being omnipotent. Vishnu, being spread everywhere. Shiva, auspicious, being auspicious. Shankara, the one who does good, great things for you. Narayana, the support of all the beings, Prakriti and all the beings. Antar Bahishya Tat Sarvam Vyapya Narayana Sthitaha. He is inside and outside. You should visualize him everywhere. You should not have any prejudice that. So one example I'll give you before going to that Ramayana statement, right? You sit here and you are thinking about your mother and dad. So just imagining and meditating inside, is it enough? You would want to visit them, or you would want to at least do an online call in these COVID times with them, see their face and talk to them, right? Similarly, that God has taken, he has by himself as Swayambhu come, and he is residing in several temples, and he has been installed there with the proper Agama Shastra and with the Veda mantras. There are different agamas. So he is staying like that. So it is not just you are meditating mentally about him. You go there, see his beautiful form, get lost in it. That is why so many millions of people go to Tirupati or somewhere. It has to be experienced. It is beyond, without that kind of an experience, it is difficult, that everybody is free to just sit at their own place and meditate. But temples are there for a purpose. Your idols at your home are there for a purpose. Our ancestors are not fools. Some consider them a stage in higher advancement. Some consider them the end. Going to Tirumala, there are so many devotees who just saw that Archa Vigraha as Tirupana Alvar. There is a great saint who sees Sri Ranganatha and just leaves his body there. He in that ecstasy of seeing that God for the first time. If you want to understand Agamas, there are many Agamas, Vaishnava Agamas, Shaiva Agamas, Shakteya Agamas, and Agama Shastra Pramanyam. You need to read the work of Yamunacharya, the Acharya of Sri Ramanuja himself. You need to read that. You need to understand how the idol is consecrated through Veda mantras there, how the God that is everywhere, you should, if visualize in that, wherein that your acharyas have consecrated it like that. There is a purpose for sitting in a temple and worshipping that God. You are all together there, worshipping for a common cause, not for your own self. The societies were based on temples. The Jivanopadhi of people was based on temples. Temples were cultures. If you want to go to Ramayana, now Ramayana for many of the modern people it is like 5,000 or 6,000 or they can't even think beyond 10,000 years, right? 10,000 years is like Indus Valley civilization, not even 5,000 years back. Beyond that there's nothing, right? Humans weren't there, we came from monkeys. Unfortunately, our itihasas don't talk about man coming from monkeys. Those who want to go and take the side of Darwin, great, they can. I am myself a scientific guy. I am myself thoroughly educated, but I give preference to our culture and our itihasas. So Ramayana didn't happen in this Mahayuga. One Mahayuga is basically 4 yugas: Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga. Mahabharata happened in this Dwapara Yuga, but Ramayana didn't even happen in this Mahayuga. It happened 4 Mahayugas before. So one Mahayuga's time is kind of around 4.3 million years or something. So 16 to 17 million years back or something like that is the time of Ramayana. And in Ramayana, I'll quote certain verses from Ayodhya Kanda. First, when Rama leaves to the forest on Dashratha's request, Bharata comes after some time and he sees all the roads deserted, Ayodhya empty, all the temples deserted. So Ayodhya Kanda 2.71, 71st Sarga, 40 and 41st Lokas. I'll recite. Apeta malya shobhani asamrushtajirani cha devagarani shunyani nacha bhanti yathapuram. Devagarani, all the temples are not shining as earlier. They are all deserted. Devatarcha pravidhascha yajñoshtyas tathavitha malya paneshu rajante na adya panyani va tatha. Devatarcha. Note this word clearly from Ramayana 17 million years ago. They are talking about Devata Archana. And in the same Ayodhya and Devagarani temples they are talking about. And there are other slokas when Rama and Sita, when Rama is about to be coronated, they go to the temple of Narayana in Ayodhya during the preparatory ceremonies for the consecration as king, and they pray to that Narayana in their temple. Gate purohite Ramaha snato niyatamanasah sahapatnya vishalaksha Narayanam upagamat Vagyata sahavaideshya bhutva niyatamanasah Shrimat yayatane Vishno Shishashye Naravaratmajaha. They stayed in the temple of Vishnu that night. So Ramayana is that old and they are talking about temple worship there. And even in Ramayana, if you read what sage Vishwamitra explains to Rama, he says that the incarnation of Vamana happened even millions of years before that. Hundreds of yugas before that. At that time of Ramayana is when Vamana incarnation happened. So our Sanatana Dharma, which unfortunately people have given a name called Hinduism, and today's great modern philosophers, yogis talk about as, oh, we want to be secular, we want to be, what do you want? Hinduism is a religion. This whole thing has been Hinduism, or we were all called Bharatavarsha, right? On the name of King Bharata. This whole culture was ruling the world. The same, you have the concepts of mosques and churches in other religions too. Even in Japan, when I went there, there are temples out there. Obviously, the idols were removed. Perhaps time is a big thing, right? Time has changed the nature of Jambudvipam itself. Whatever is described back in those days in Ramayana is non-existent today for most part of it, and people are debating, which is the country of Vishala, for example, explained in Ramayana, which is that city, which are the other beautiful cities that were described by Vishwamitra to Rama in Balakanda, where different incidents occurred. So, see, and one other thing that we need to know here quickly is that idol worship or temple worship could be a starting step for certain people, but in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, it's the end. Because if you see this world is his divine form, it is not a mithya. Chandogya Upanishad starts with the statement, one of the things, Eka Vijnanena Sarva Vijnanam. By knowing that one thing, everything is known. So when he's talking about everything is known, why is that everything a mithya? Why are you negating this everything and saying only that? No, you need to see everything being indwelled by that one thing. Whether it's the Prakriti or the Jivatmas, they are all internally indwelled by that Narayana. Narayana meaning the one who is the support of all these beings. So that is why you should not have any animosity to where you want to see him. I only want to see him here. I cannot see him in this. Why is this fellow going? Who are you to comment? There are so many saints, great singers who submerged and immersed their whole lives in praying to that Srinivasa, and there are beautiful experiences of that Lord Venkateshwara that he has given to his devotees. Hathiram Baba was his devotee. He was imprisoned, and the king asked him, "You need to finish this entire sugarcane sticks this night." That whole prison was filled with huge heaps of sugarcane sticks. God came in the form of an elephant and ate them. This guy was just his devotee. Lord Venkateshwara used to come in a human form and play with him. That is what he told. And then he came as an elephant. And it is told that when in the beginning of Kali Yuga, God used to talk to devotees, great devotees there, including a king called Tondaman Chakravarti. That Tondaman Chakravarti, when he wanted to win a battle, God gave his Shankha and Chakra to him. Later on, he created a lot of blemishes, and then that God said, I won't speak with you, or I won't further with anybody, I won't speak or talk, I'll just stay in this Archa form. To the modern people, to the Neo-Vedantins who talk about yoga and other things, they can't see this, they don't understand this. For this, you need to have bhakti. You need to have devotion and not pride or knowledge. And bhakti is obtained after all your efforts of whatever you do, right? You do your yoga, your pranayamas, sadhanas. The true samadhi is bhakti, loving him eternally. Mirabai was worshipping an idol of the god. She was far more bigger a saint than any of these Neo-Vedantins who are talking about or ridiculing idol worship, or the yogis. After all these stages of trying to find God, trying to go into a non-existent state, I don't get it, right? Why do you want to go into a non-existent shunya state? When this whole, you're being given eyes outside, yes. See him, try to turn them inside and see him inside, yes. But when they're given outside, see what is to be seen. His beautiful form, this nature, and his great forms in which he has come down to this earth for our sake in all those great temples. Venkateshwara is my kid. He has given me that experience which is not understandable by many. Some people say, it is your blind faith. So be it. These are not some things that need to be argued. They have to be experienced. I'm not a great bhakta. I'm not. I have all my weaknesses. I can't think of God all throughout my day. Or I can't come out of my weaknesses or leave out what I think is mine for his sake. But yes, to some extent, he has given me that love for him. It is his doing, my Acharya's doing. Bhakti is the highest state. After having tried out, he just keeps watching, right? You want to try yoga? Try. Okay, you want to do meditation? Try. Right? Keep trying. They're not wrong. You should try them. Krishna himself told you, you should. What is meditation? Focusing on him and always thinking about him. But finally, after all those practices, one reaches a state of bhakti wherein God appears to him in whichever form he wants to. And he always enjoys the company of that God, like our Alvars did. So did Alvars visit each of those shrines always? No, they didn't. They visited, in those days people had to walk for long. My grandfather had to walk from Ongole, somewhere in AP, till Srirangam, many kilometers, to just have one glimpse of that God. And he was denied entrance the first time he went there. So in those days, do you think these Alvars and all who worshipped or prayed about that great God, did they get to travel and see those shrines always? No, they might have seen it for a few times in their life, once or twice. But they sat at their places and meditated on those forms of the God. And their meditation is far bigger than some of the new people who talk that I went into trance and then I didn't know, I could not explain my experience, what I felt inside. There are some saints here. I revere them fine, but Alvars, there is one great Alvar called Nammalvar. He could actually go into an immediate meditation like this on the God, on Krishna, and then he could come out and explain that experience, feel that separation from the experience that he had in the meditation, cry because he is separated now, and again go back into that meditation. So I don't buy when somebody says you can't explain that state in the meditation. It is just, picking a book somewhere, reading something from there, understanding Sanskrit and trying to vomit it. Understanding Sanskrit in your own way. That's not it, right? So, and there are reasons why some of these, I don't kind of criticize the Neo-Vedantins also. There are reasons why they did it. There are certain social evils wherein people of different castes were not being allowed into temples. That kind of a bad culture set in our temples. During Ramanuja's time itself, he strived a lot to open the temples and re-establish the administration for everyone. There are beautiful incidents in Ramanuja's story. He gave the Tirumantra Artham to everyone irrespective of their caste. His guru warned him, don't give it to everyone. Undeserving people, don't give it. You'll be cursed to hell. But Ramanuja said, if one person is cursed to hell, that's fine, but let everyone receive the Narayana Tirumantram. So he climbed the temple rooftop and explained or told that mantra, gave it to everyone, whether they were interested in it or not. And Ramanuja also, while he established this temple worship, could also go and see that God everywhere. He was always in that meditation. There is a story wherein Ramanuja is taking his alms and a beautiful little girl opens the door. At that point of time, he is singing the verses of goddess, mother goddess, who worshipped God through those verses, Lord Narayana through those verses. When that little girl opens the door, Ramanuja is already thinking about mother. He's in that meditation and he sees that, okay, that person has come and she has taken a form and she is before him. Then he at once faints, thinking it is mother herself came like that. Mata Lakshmi is just before me, he thinks, and he faints. Andal, her name is. He imagines Andal is before him, and he faints. So, it is about seeing them everywhere, within, outside. Antar Bahishya Tatsarvam Vyapya Narayana Sthitaha. When somebody says that don't see it outside, there only on that hill, it means not only there. See it inside. He's there with you here. If you are not able to go somewhere and all, fine. Don't have to waste your time. See it here if you can. Feel that Lord, be thankful to Him. Feel Him, His presence, His beautiful qualities, His divine forms within you. Here, He is there within you. That is true meditation. But again, you go there to all those great temples to enjoy his beautiful form, because he himself has come in those forms. This whole world is his form. He can take any form. I already told you that. Those are all Swayambhu forms that he has taken for himself. The Varkaris here in Maharashtra, for example, they travel so much to Pandharpur. Why? Or people travel to Siddhivinayak. Why? You should not have prejudice or certain things to a particular god. You need to see how many saints have worshipped that god in that way before, just commenting on it. The unfortunate part is some of these Neo-Vedantins, they were not equipped with the proper Vedic knowledge or the proper interpretations of it, or even they haven't read the Itihasas. Ramayana itself is talking about temple worship. Who are you to comment? In Ayodhya, Bharata was, safeguarding those temples. Who are you to comment today that our temples are created by somebody later? 16, 17 million years back, where you don't even know that that civilizations existed. Man and monkey kind of creatures existed together, Vanaras. And you come and tell me evolution today, right? The 3 tusked elephants that are explained in Ramayana, 3 or 4 tusked. You can see on Google, a 3 tusked elephant that lived millions of years ago is explained by our current scientists or current archaeologists or whoever, right? When Hanuman became big, there are explanations today how he became big. Vibhutis, as somebody says, were possible for people then. These are certain things to be experienced. Just because you haven't seen your granddad doesn't mean he didn't exist. So things have to be understood in context. God's presence has to be felt everywhere. Okay? Srimati Ramanujaya Namaha. Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha. And one thing you see, because of these social evils, these people, they didn't read these things and they said, okay, let's not go into a temple, let's stop temple worship, let's just see him within ourselves. Okay, it's good. If you want to do it, nobody is stopping you. There are different ways you can try to realize him. If he feels that karuna over you, he will bless you with that. But there are different agamas through which temple worship has been happening, and we can discuss at length the need for temples and other things in more detail later. Agama Pramanyam by Yamunacharya and such other books you need to read. They have a lot based on a lot of the Vedic mantras themselves. Though some people claim that they came there later, or because these people don't know, right? They know that a few thousand years back only, they can only see till there. Rigveda came 3000 years back for them. That's all. Civilization only started few thousand years back. Upanishads were later. Indus Valley civilization was before. So since these guys, they weren't so much knowledgeable, they said, okay, they kind of took their own paths. But unfortunately, for your own self, if you want to do that, fine. But an age-old this thing, without even referring to your Puranas or your Itihasas properly, or the Vedic injunctions, you come and then say that, okay, today I am decided I won't go to a temple and these people won't go to a temple. You establish your samajas, you prescribe things. Just because you have some English, you kind of become famous. That's not how it should have been. But anyway, we are a free culture. Today what is called as Hinduism. We let everyone have their own way. But unfortunately, that also has led to the degradation of our own culture values because of people who have misinterpreted a lot of things over a period of time. Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Srimati Ramanujaya Namaha.